The best 5-win team in NFL history? Well, the NFL record books and the NFL honours would certainly suggest so. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, then please do me a favour and hit that subscribe button. So, the NFL honours were last night. I will, out of the gates, admit I did not stay up to watch it. There's obviously 5 hours ahead here in the UK compared to obviously over in the States. Any of the clips I've seen from the in-between stuff of the award show certainly was not something I would have enjoyed staying up for. So I'm glad that I didn't, and instead got to just wake up in the morning to the fantastic, wonderful, but also expected news that, of course, Myles Garrett is your NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and Carson Schwesinger is your Defensive Rookie of the Year. Clean sweep for the defensive awards. NFL award voters, the 50 voters that vote for this, they have, in Myles' case, unanimously decided that he is the best defensive player in football, something we already know. And of course, Carson Schwesinger getting 40 of the 50 allocated votes, which I was actually quite surprised about. I thought Nick Emenwari would get a few more votes than 7 votes, and then James Pierce getting 2. Xavier Watts, who obviously should have been a Cleveland Brown, obviously getting a vote as well. So obviously, first and foremost, wonderful news for both guys. Fully deserved for both guys. This is something that, we had our eye on. I was talking about on this channel. Everyone was talking about, but this was certainly a possibility as early as, a few weeks into the season when we saw both of these guys, obviously, the high level that they were playing. Obviously, Carson literally straight out of the gates as a rookie green dot holder from week 1 was excellent. Myles Garrett is Myles Garrett. It just by going out there and existing, he's going to be within a shout for Defensive Player of the Year every single year. So, we knew pretty early on, and then as the weeks kind of piled up, it was like, well, this is actually a real possibility, and now it is confirmed. Both guys, as I said, massive congratulations. This is a very cool moment for any franchise. The last team to win both Defensive Player of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year was the New York Giants all the way back in 1981. And that was actually the same player in Lawrence Taylor. He won both awards because obviously that was Lawrence Taylor. So I don't actually know how far we have to go back to find a team that 2 different players won those awards, and I'm not actually sure if you can go back to find that, because I'm not entirely sure if it exists. So this might be the first time in NFL history that a team has had 2 different players win both, Defensive Player of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year, with obviously the only other time it happening with one team being Lawrence Taylor winning both awards by himself. So massive, really cool moment for, the franchise as a whole. Myles now a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. He sits in a club that, only a handful. I don't think you can, I think 2 hands is enough to count how many people sit in that club of multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards. He is only the second all-time unanimous Defensive Player of the Year after, nearly said TJ Watt, obviously not TJ Watt, his much better brother JJ Watt, who of course, let's just, say this straight away, I am going to miss the TJ Watt debates, shall we say. It was never a debate, but, I like to entertain it. But obviously now, we're not even going to be entertaining those debates, and if anyone wants to put Watt in the same name as Myles Garrett, I'll maybe let them at the table if it's JJ Watt, but obviously TJ Watt, no, obviously you don't belong at the table. But as I said, JJ Watt 2014, the only other time that someone has been unanimous defensive player of the year. Which, don't get me wrong, I don't agree with. Like there is definitely should have been more. Like you think about some of those Lawrence Taylor seasons, you think about Reggie White, guys like that. I mean, I'm pretty sure those guys should have probably been unanimous MVP defensive player of the years in certain years. I mean, even Michael Strahan, when he set the sack record, he nearly actually lost. He only won that by a handful of votes that year. So, but always cool to be only the second guy to be unanimous. So that's obviously great for Myles. And as I said, the voters not just deciding that this is the best defensive player of the year and best defensive player in the NFL and the best defensive rookie of the year, but it's basically a massive praise on the Browns defense as a whole. I mean, there's only 2 defensive awards you can win in these award shows, and the Browns won both of them. So, represented in the entire defensive category, which of course is a massive shout out to the defense as a whole. A defense that might look different next year with as I hit record on as I hit end on recording on this video. We'll certainly go into record straight into the Jim Schwartz video, obviously with the announcement that Jim Schwartz is leaving the Browns. But even so, as someone that doesn't expect this defense to drop off because of Jim Schwartz leaving, only expect both of these guys to be even better next year. And of course, this is just so exciting. It's as I said, it's cool, it's amazing. These guys winning these awards. It's great for them to go to this award show, to get go on stage and all of that stuff. And Carson Schwesinger, this is a guy that 2 years ago wasn't even starting in college, and now he's on stage at the NFL honors with all these famous people going up to accept the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year award. So that's just such a cool moment for him. Obviously for Myles now going up there as well for the second time. So obviously all of that stuff, but obviously just from an actual on the field perspective as well. You don't win these awards for just being popular. You win these awards because what you do on the field. And obviously both these guys, I mean, Myles is Myles. Everyone knows how I feel about Myles, how he excites me every single week I watch him, and how he has since the first game he played for the Cleveland Browns. And obviously I expect him to continue at a high level for at least a few more years. And then of course Carson Schwesinger, just the potential that he has and how excited you are for him going forward, which of course kick-starts with a rookie campaign that resulted in a Defensive Rookie of the Year award. So shout out to both guys. I mean, Myles, as I said, I've made it no secret my feeling of Myles Garrett. His jersey is right behind me. He is my favourite Browns player of all time. In my opinion, he is the most talented Cleveland Brown to ever wear the jersey. I will happily concede to, the greatness arguments, and you want to talk, that kind of stuff and rings. Obviously, you've got Jim Brown. Obviously, you've got Otto Graham, etc., etc. But in terms of just talent and in terms of what they can do on a football field, I don't think there has been a better player than Myles Garrett that has stepped on a football field wearing brown and orange. So, he's the greatest Brown. He's now a 2-time defensive player of the year. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is going to be regarded as one of, if not the greatest Cleveland Brown of all time. It's been an absolute, privilege to be able to watch him, as I said, throughout his career, his entire career so far with the Browns, hopefully, and I expect his whole career with the Cleveland Browns, of course, with that contract that he signs. And obviously, for that to just be, to be so lucky to experience that. And I stress it so many times on this channel that, I think a lot of people take it for granted having Myles Garrett on this football team and getting to see him play every single year. It's not just that he plays at such a high level. This is a guy that has missed a handful of games in his career, other than obviously that season where he got suspended for 6 games. This guy doesn't miss games. He's always available. And when he's out there, he's the best defensive player on the planet. So, I can't speak highly enough of Myles Garrett. Best defensive player in the NFL. And then Carson Schwesinger, as I said, shout out to him as well. And it has been pretty funny. I'm sure a lot of Browns fans watching this that, are online a lot and are on Twitter and obviously know how Twitter works and just how it throws throws the algorithm at you, and I've seen all of the Falcons accounts and Falcons fans that have been complaining about this. I mean, it's funny. I mean, you've got Seahawks fans who are the only ones that actually would have an argument, in my opinion. Nick Emenwari is the only guy I would say, okay, I'll sit down and listen to an argument of why he should be Defensive Rookie of the Year ahead of Carson Schwesinger. And you don't see any Seahawks fan complaining about it. Maybe it's because their team is about to play in the Super Bowl. I get it; they've got other things to think about. Maybe that's because of it. If they was currently like the Falcons and when were sat on their couch, then obviously they would have more time to complain about this. But it has been pretty funny seeing the Falcons fans complain. I mean, it's even funnier seeing, because most of the arguments seem to be for James Pierce, and it's like, he doesn't even deserve the better argument on your own team. I would vote for Xavier Watts before I would vote for James Pierce. Xavier Watts was excellent this year. Obviously, every Browns fan is annoyed every time they saw him play well, every time they saw him get an interception. I'm pretty sure he had most interceptions as a rookie since like Deion Sanders or something like that. Really, really good this year. And I would certainly would have voted for him ahead of James Pierce. And don't get me wrong, this is not me saying that James Pierce is a bad player. This is something that got kind of misconstrued on Twitter, as I said, with some of the tweets that I had with it, and people thinking that I'm calling him a bad. He's not a bad player. Of course he's not. If you're anywhere near the conversation of Defensive Rookie of the Year or any of those awards, you're of course not a bad player. If you're in the NFL, you're not a fucking bad player. I've said this all the time. Every NFL player is a really, really, really good football player. It's just some are better than others. And, James Pierce is a good player. He's a situational pass rusher. That's what he was as a rookie. Mainly played on third down, obvious passing situations. That's not an indictment on him. That's not like, that's not me, criticizing him. That's just me stating a fact. That's just what he was. That's how they used him. I don't know how I can, express that in any other way that that is somehow can be misconstrued as like I'm saying that as a negative and as a derogatory term against him, that was a situational pass rusher as a rookie on a team that their defense was one of their better defense they've had in a long time. I think they set their record for sacks this year. So on a good defensive line, that's not an indictment on a player at all. But that's what he was. He was a situational pass rusher. He played 54% of his team's snaps this year. And, and you're comparing that to someone who, as I mentioned earlier, was the green dot holder for a top 5 defense from week 1, was excellent from week 1, was consistent from week 1 all the way through to week 17. Obviously didn't play in the last game because of the injury, but even the weeks leading up to that, when he was forced not to play, because I'm sure if it was down to him, he still would have gone out there, because we saw him out there on one leg the week before. So, a guy that was consistently great, excellent all season. I mean, I say great, elite, if we're being completely honest. This was a guy that played at a level of, a top 5 linebacker, and they can all, people can say, they just think people don't watch the Browns, so they just think, it's the tackles, and they look at his stats, they see it's a high tackle number, and they fall into the trap of, it's a bad team, it's a guy getting a load of tackles, that's what happens on bad teams. And it's like, no, you've just not watched the games, you've not watched Carson Schwesinger play football, if that is what your takeaway is from Carson Schwesinger. This is a guy that is literally a top 5 linebacker, should be within an all-pro consideration as a rookie. That's not me saying this as a Browns fan, as a biased Browns fan. That's me saying this as a NFL fan, as a football fan, as someone that is even if I wasn't a Browns fan would be saying this. So just an absolutely hilarious reaction from Falcons fans, seeing that one guy that has the same name as Myles Garrett, which is funny. That one I think he's a beat reporter for the Falcons. Comparing sacks between, as I said, a situational pass rusher and a every down inside linebacker, middle linebacker, to using that to compare the two, and why one should be voted Defensive Rookie of the Year over the other. Just an absolutely hilarious thing to even compare, not just in this case, in these two players, to just compare an edge rusher and an inside linebacker by using sacks is just the most hilarious thing you can do. And then even funnier is that, yes, okay, he had 10.5 sacks, more sacks than middle linebacker Carson Schwesinger. I would hope that the edge rusher would have more sacks. But even with that being the case, Carson Schwesinger still had more tackles for loss. So just to, people can say he's not get annoyed when I say he's a situational pass rusher. There's no more evidence of someone being a situational pass rusher than 10.5 sacks, yet you still had less tackles for loss than the middle linebacker. You didn't have, didn't have many run stops, didn't have many tackles for loss. You basically just got sacks, played 54% of your team's snaps. And, I'm pretty sure as well, he had a pretty high missed tackle rate as well. So, he pretty much went hunting every single time he was out there. That's all he was to do. And as I said earlier, that's not a negative. There's plenty of stuff you can be excited about him going forward. But to just compare that to a guy that was the green dot holder every down inside linebacker for a top 5 defense, regardless of what you want to say about the record, is just hilarious. So, absolutely funny reaction from Falcons fans, but as someone with my nature, who I am as a person, of course I absolutely loved it, because I could then have some fun with it on social media. And I do another podcast with a Falcons fan, so there's no like kind of malice in it. I'm having a lot of fun with poking the Falcons fan base with their annoyance at the idea that the NFL, for some reason, favoured the Cleveland Browns, favoured an inside linebacker for the Cleveland Browns. I think there's only been 3 inside linebackers that have won the award since I think I've been alive. Funnily enough, all second round picks, by the way. So if you want an inside linebacker, middle, go get him in the early second round. So just absolutely, hilarious, and I'm having fun poking the bear with the Falcons fans. And don't get me wrong, they've got 2 young rookies that they should be excited about going forward 100%. Those 2 guys are good players, can potentially be great players. I'd say Xavier Watts he was a great player this year as a rookie, but as I said, potential to be great players. But Carson Schwesinger, in my opinion, is an elite player, and someone that you just are so excited about for the next 10 years. But either way, I'm going to end up rambling about Falcons fans and the whole discussion, so I'll leave it at that. Massive congratulations to Carson Schwesinger, to Myles Garrett. Record-breaking Myles Garrett season, record-breaking season from Carson Schwesinger in terms of tackles. For a Browns rookie, was literally 3 tackles away from breaking the record from just a Browns player, and would have broke the record if he didn't play the last game. And obviously then capped off with both of those guys being an award-winning defensive duo. So massive shout out and congratulations to those guys. Awesome moment for the franchise, awesome moment for them, awesome moment for us as fans to have fun with it. And of course, as Browns fans, with the whole TJ Watt stuff over the years, maybe they could have, last year, TJ Watt has 1 defensive player of the year and Myles only has 1, so we can still kind of hang our hat on that, I suppose. But now, Myles has 2. TJ Watt only has 1. Since TJ Watt tweeted the infamous, seen this, I can't even remember what he even tweeted now. What was it? I've seen this before or whatever. The famous tweet. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. And to then, since then, I think Myles has won 2 defensive player of the years. Obviously, at the start of that, with that tweet, and has had 30 something sacks, while TJ Watt's had 18 sacks, and has basically gotten to a point now where I've seen Steelers accounts talking about whether they should trade him for a second round pick in the off season. So that's how both of those guys have gone. Of course, as always, the ball knowers, the Browns fans knew that Myles was the better player, was always going to be the better player. So we rest our case. Congratulations to Myles Garrett. Best defensive player on the planet, at this point, deserves to be in the conversation of one of, if not the best defensive player. I say defensive player, let's say pass rusher of all time. I don't think you should be shying away from having that conversation. And obviously Carson Schwesinger, defensive rookie of the year, first Brown to win it in my lifetime. So obviously cool moment for me as well. Excited about him going forward. great moment for the fan base. But that would do it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you do enjoy my content, then please drop this video a like, hit the subscribe button. It's free, but it really helps out my channel. You can also check the links in the description to see where you can follow and interact with me on social media. As I always say, I'm trying to build a community of Cleveland Browns fans, and even if that means I only get to talk to one fan a day, I'm happy because I'm talking Browns football with the best fan base in the world. Thanks again for watching, guys. Have an amazing weekend. Enjoy, having this to one up on Steelers fans, one up on any Falcons fans in your mentions. Enjoy this for both of these guys and have an amazing weekend, as I said. But most importantly, go Browns, go Myles Garrett, and go Carson Schwesinger.